Oh, hey guys, F5 Gabe here, and today I'll be reviewing The Death of Slim Shady by Eminem. Let's get into it. Trying the YouTube Shorts mic today, hopefully it works a bit better. Anyway, I was introduced to Eminem only last year in 2023, and while I was super impressed by his first three albums, that kind of formed me into this over-obsessive stan where I ended up having 13,000 minutes on Eminem last year. Yeah, I wasn't always proud of 2023 me, but just because I liked the first three albums doesn't mean I necessarily thought his newer stuff was all that great. Like, I feel like Eminem has one of the most diverse discographies, not only in quality but also just in its differentness. Like, there's so many different kinds of rap you can find in his discography. I really like Kamikaze and Recovery, actually. I know a lot of people don't like Kamikaze, but I actually like that album. And after Music to Be Murdered By, honestly, I never thought he'd drop another album. I thought he was done. Even though his Wikipedia page said active, I thought that he would never rap again, and it was just over. So I just kind of moved on and started listening to other things, thankfully. But when I heard this album was getting announced, I was surprised. I was, like, out of this world. And I was like, okay, I'll hear what he has to offer. I know it's probably not going to be that great, but, let's get into it. And let me tell you, Renaissance makes it seem like he's really going to deliver on this album. The flow can get a little choppy here and there, but overall on this track, Eminem does a really good job of bringing in high quality lyrics and really good syllable, amazing flows. He seems to be Slim Shady in this opening song, which kind of alludes to the story of this album. And he says he's standing there, fearing nobody, comparing himself to this fairy tale character, Edward Scissorhands, how he slices competition and just goes about his business. We get a nice little rhyme scheme about a dark thing with Slim Shady holding a baby over a balcony, but I really want to touch on here is the end when he says, elephantitis of the nuts, element of intelligent hoodlum, arrested development, through hell I went, accelerant for the lack of melanin. The lyrics here are so crazy and rhyme so well. Like, they might be a bit choppy, but overall they give a great flow and a great intro of what Slim is. That track branches immediately into Habits. The flows here are fine, and Eminem starts to really begin to introduce the story of this album, with him threatening harshly to kill Slim Shady in the beginning. And then he starts to rap about his past addictions with offending people in general, and how he can't overcome it. And that kind of leads into Slim Shady himself starting some more controversy, and Eminem even joining in. The chorus is kind of mid, the verses aren't the best, flows aren't incredible, but he does have a few bars that are really funny, like the Bruce Jenner line. That one kind of made me laugh out loud. The third verse, where he starts really slow and just tries to lay on the controversy as hard as possible to convince people that he's really back, is just not great, but he starts to pick it up later. Also, for some reason, he decides to pick on midgets throughout the song, and it's just not amazing. The whole thing is him complaining about the world. Marshall's kind of trying to defend the trans community and stuff from time to time, but he can't escape his habits at times, and Slim Shady doesn't lay it on easy. The whole thing kind of reminds me of like Golem, like the two personalities fight each other, but the evil one usually wins over. Little interlude that is trouble, basically as Slim Shady trying to spit more random controversies to get Eminem canceled, and he's trying to stop all of it, with Slim finally saying in the end that they flipping need each other, which if you really think about it, couldn't be closer to the truth, because without Slim Shady's first three albums, Eminem would not have been nearly as big as he is now. Brand New Dance is really silly. It's got the funkiest beat ever, and Slim talks in this slick, high person talk. Kind of reminds me of Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter, how I'd imagine he'd talk if he wanted to, and it just sounds really weird. The contents are even weirder with him rapping about Christopher Reeves, an actor who suffered a severe horseback incident paralyzing him, and makes up this brand new dance for kids to try that'll get kids just like him. I think this is to continue Slim being all controversial, so it fits with the story. This is just such a goofy song. The chorus, especially here, is just so odd. They say later, actually, on Guilty Conscience 2, that this song was taken from Encore, so that could explain just how weird it is. Evil has a decent chorus. The flows here are fine, and they connect the story to how Eminem's horrified at Slim trying to cancel him, and basically just talks about how evil he is. Pretty much reminds me of the horrorcore on something like Relapse here, though definitely not quite as extreme. Antichrist has an amazing chorus, and it has some pretty inconsistent flows and verses quality wise. The first verse is fine. The second one starts with a fantasy that reminds me of like a lot of the stuff on the Marshall Mathers LP, as it's super dirty and not great to listen to, but it does build his character really well. And the fast part at the end of that verse is impressive, but there's not really anything throughout this song bar-wise that was a straight bar, if you know what I mean. Other than the Jeffrey Epstein line, which is kind of funny, yeah, there's not too much great stuff here. Fuel is definitely the best track on this whole album. If you haven't heard it, I totally hope you will, because Jid's flow is just so amazing, especially with the multiple rhyme schemes he lays out in the verse. Then Eminem drops some of his best bars, saying like, he's a R-A-P-E-R, got so many essays, meaning he's a rapper with essays, basically of bars, or feeding into the next line, which says, wait, he didn't just spell rapper without a P, did he? Which all references P. Diddy and his allegations in the end. Absolutely brutal. He also had a clever thing saying, call me obesity, why, you think it's over, wait, it's just the beginning. And then there's the insanely clever, got the most content on the continent part that I'm not even going to try to dissect, because it is so hard to do, like, to dissect, and like, it's crazy how he connected all of that and made it all rhyme while still making plenty of sense and connecting to him. Road Rage is very interesting. It has a mid-beat and kind of a chill chorus I can vibe to, and the lyrics continue the whole Slim Shady plus Eminem thing, spreading controversy. He has a really bad bar here with old Slim would have told them to put a lid on it like a toilet bowl rim, but he also has a few decent ones where he's making a rant about fat people and says, instead of exercise, it's better to find triple exercise. I have to say, I don't really hate this song. It's got kind of a chill sound behind it, even though the lyrics don't really match that. Houdini, in my opinion, is not that great. I think I really liked the music video when it came out because it's really nostalgic, but like listening to it as a single, the verses and the chorus here just really aren't that great. They're mid to bad at best, you know. There's a few parts where it's fine, but overall I don't really like Houdini. The next skit paints a picture of people boycotting Eminem's restaurant Mom's Spaghetti after the release of his new album and with all the controversy surrounding it, which leads right into Guilty Conscience 2, which is basically a whole skit in itself of Eminem and Marshall going back and forth like, no you, you're worse. And basically Slim is debating Eminem because he's saying, you say you don't give a flip, but really you do, and you're trying to cover up all these controversies that are really the things that you believe. And Marshall's rebuking Slim for getting him into this hot water, and Slim brought up the point that without Slim, Marshall would not be famous. And now he hasn't been listening to him. Now they say, you lack ire, that's why your satire backfires. In the end, Marshall gets super mad and administers the kill shot to Slim, wakes up and tells Paul about everything that happened, him spreading controversy because of Slim, and then the boycott. So that's kind of like the climax of this album, I'd say, like story-wise. And I think that this track, like, while it's something you want to just turn on to listen to, like it's not like a banger or anything, I think it's really fun to just like watch them bicker, like read the lyrics while they do it. I think it's really good at bringing the climax to this whole story. The next track, Head Honcho, no longer has Slim since he's gone, and it really does seem like Eminem returns to his old ways with this one. I think he did a really good job writing his verse like he would write it. Like, this almost seems like a song he wrote before he had this album prepared and this concept ready, and this was just something he was going to release that was kind of like music to be murdered by. There's a decent beat here, and I feel like Easy Mill's chorus and verses are really good. But Eminem's is pretty choppy, and like, as it's not great quality wise, he does a really good job of making it like he would. So yeah, I think he does good there. Temporary is another message from Eminem to Hallie, his daughter, and I think it's funny because at this point he can't even deny that Hallie's his favorite. He's already got Mockingbird, Haley's song, and now we got Temporary, like, and they're all about Hallie. Like, it's just wild. I feel kind of bad for the other kids that he has. Anyway, it's a sweet song, really brings out the Marshall Mathers in him, and does a good job of not bringing out Shady, since he's dead, and continuing the concept. The first verse on Bad One is so choppy, and the whole song sounds like one of those bad ones on Music to be Murdered by. The beat is fine, the chorus is corny, and the verses are just not great lyrically or the way they're delivered. But since this sounds a lot like his last album, I do have to say he's doing a great job at making sure he sounds just like Marshall Mathers when he is Marshall Mathers. There's no homophobia or transphobia here, just gross scenarios, political statements, and boasting. Bad to mid-tier song. Toby has a great beat and decent verses. I feel like I don't really prefer Babytron's way of rapping here because he's like so slurred in his speech. Take this for example. He says, "Granny told me, boy, you reap what you sow. Do the most, we over even the score. Said he on the run, glued his feet to the floor." It's just really hard to understand what he's saying unless you're reading the lyrics like I am, even though he makes it rhyme. He does have a really cool Iron Giant reference here. He says, "Run around with the Iron Giant, make him eat metal." Just like how the Iron Giant eats metal in his movie, he's comparing to his pew-pew. Big Scene's verse is pretty good. Eminem is going on his bragging arc once again. He has a few cool comparisons here, like sleeping on more floors than the Empire State Building, and how he has so many stories. Overall, this is one of the bangers in the album, so you should listen to it. The Guess Who's Back skit with the return of Ken Kniff really reminds me of Curtains Close on the Eminem show, and it's like this kind of silly, wacky, dirty parody of Houdini, and that's kind of just what Curtains Close is compared to Without Me, and it's really funny and nostalgic, so I like that. Somebody Save Me is an Eminem apology song to his kids for everything he's missed because of his addictions and how he's trying to get better. He apologizes for missing graduations, guitar recitals, birth of children, but at the same time, a lot of the things he apologizes for, he didn't actually do or miss, like how Hallie was walked down the aisle by him and how she doesn't have any children. So this is either supposed to be like hallucinations caused by the drugs, or the whole album is some alternate Eminem odd lore universe. Yeah, I have no idea. Overall, this is definitely one of my favorite new age Eminem albums, as in since Encore. I think that most of the beats here were very well produced. We got some incredible features throughout, some bangers, some cool skits, and Guilty Conscience 2, which is kind of a skit. But we also got some wacky verses, really choppy flows, some bad or corny verses, and weird lyrics. Overall, though, Eminem created a concept album. And even when musically or lyrically this thing doesn't shine, the concept is still held up, like on his leader tracks after the Coup de Grace when his rapping isn't the best, but it's written like Marshall Mathers. This is pretty good, and I must say this is definitely one of the better Eminem albums, and probably towards the top of his discography, especially if you're only talking about from 2004 to now. I'm thinking a 6 out of 10 on this one. Let me know in the comments what you liked about this album, what you didn't like, and please leave suggestions for more. If you would like to see some more album reviews, please click over here, and if you would like to just subscribe to the channel, please do it right here. Thanks.